thank you all for coming today. First, I want to invite Suad to come and give us opening remarks. Suad, please come on over.
Hi everyone, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your time and the encouragement for this youth that they are going to be here with us. Thank you for the audience that are here with us, and special thank you to Abdullah, who left everything behind and come in here right with us. Thank you to the Malden River Works. We're going to finish that river with God's willing. But like I just have something sad to share with you. All the Boston community right now are in mourning because like 3 from the Arab community, 3 young men, they were on vacation at Costa Rica, and one of them, Yunus Fertut, lost his life. So could you please join me for a moment of silence to honor his soul? Thank you. Thank you so much. And now I will pass it to Murad Afani, who's behind this big workshop today. He worked so hard to gather the panelists for us, and I will say he did the whole thing by himself. Thank you so much, Murad. We are proud of you. And by the way, he's the treasurer. So if you see expenses, watch out. So I tell him, no, we don't have enough money. He said, Suad, this is my workshop. Just like add more. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Murad.
Suad, thank you for a wonderful opening. I appreciate the thought there. Can you guys hear me all okay? Or yes. Good? All right, so thank you for coming again. It's a cold day, and thank you for taking the time to join us and participate with us today. So we have pretty much an interactive agenda for you today. We're going to start with, I'm going to share with you a couple of slides that I prepared about how to set up your goals and how to evaluate them over time. And the second, we're going to listen to our panelists, young students and entrepreneurs that they're going to share with us their objectives and how they achieve them. And then we're going to listen, we're going to get some insights from Osa and Carlos on what means to be an effective leader, what means to be having a smart goals that you can follow and how you can achieve them over time as well. And then we have an exercise that we're going to be doing, and we're going to have you all participate into that exercise. Last, we will have a question and answer discussion. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to take it. So first, before I get started, I want to share with you this quote. I was thinking about this last night. 2 important days in our lives, according to Mark Twain. 2 days is the day when you're born and the day when you find out why, the why. Well, I was thinking about this last night, and I say, that's not right. One of my important days was coming to the United States. That was an important day for me. The second day was first day at school. That was an important day for me. My marriage date, for instance, that was an important day. But really, it comes down to that mission that you have, that the why you are doing something, the why. So we all tend to know what we're doing. We know what we do at best. We know how we do it at best. If we ask you in your jobs, you know what you do, right? You do it perfectly, or how you do it every day. You can do it perfectly, but sometimes a lot of people struggling with the why you do it. If you answer that question, you will be very effective, and you tend to find or look for things that you like and enjoy more. Then I want to share a little bit about myself. Everybody, most of you know who I am. My name is Morad. I go to Northeastern University. I graduated already and I'm going through my MBA right now. This is my last semester. So I go to Northeastern University and I'm still at school because I like to be with students all the time. I like to be working with university and professors. I like to share my ideas and my thoughts all the time. So that's my why for going to Northeastern University. State Street Corporation, having a background of finance and economics, I figured that I want to learn more about financial industry. I'm part of the business intelligence. I enjoy so much being part of a team that provides analytical insights to senior managements to take to make the right decisions. So my why is because I enjoy that work, working at State Street. American Association for Arab Women is an association that a nonprofit organization and help community. So I enjoy volunteering and giving back to the community, helping people when I can, where I can. So I am part of the American Association for Arab Women because I enjoy the work, I enjoy giving back to the community, I enjoy volunteering. Last, a lot of you know about my little idea of leadership. When I came back to the US long back, I was challenged in one of the classes. It's a class called Critical Thinking and Thoughtful Writing. So when I get into a class, I get asked a question about a particular a topic, and I was doing fine. I was trying to recite what I learned from books and what everybody says about that particular topic, but the professor came to me and told me that that's not the right answer, because I was just reciting back. I wasn't thinking about it critically of what I am thinking about that particular thought. So I went and they created a little initiative, which is the Afandi Leadership Foundation, where an initiative that encourages critical thinking and enhance leadership or teaches people about leadership qualities and how to be effective leaders in their communities. Thank you. So moving along, this is the third edition. I want to just give a little background on what happened before at the first edition and the second edition that we did a couple of years back. So the first workshop that we did here at the same place, it was more about vision, mission, and objective. So as we know, we tend to make goals around three particular areas. Number one is around our families. Number two, around our businesses, if we have a business. And number three are goals that we put for ourselves. The family and the business, they are what we call shared goals. The goal about our personal goal is a personal goal that we do with ourselves. So every goal has a set of values, beliefs, and facts. And most of us are in that red area, so means it's a more challenging because you have goals that touches on different aspects with your family, with your business, and with your personal insights. So we talked a little bit about that in the first workshop. The second workshop we did more about, we talked about the community and the role of the community in providing resources. We're lucky here in Malden, we have so many resources, Malden Public Library being one. We have the Teen Center. So we have been encouraging everybody who is following us to utilize these resources as much as they can. We talked about the importance of volunteering, because volunteering will provide you with an opportunity to basically extend your network, and those network brings opportunities with them, right? And the last, seeking advice. This is a very tricky one because everybody can give advice. Everybody can give advice. You can get advice from your friends. I still call my mom to get some advice sometimes. And believe it or not, sometimes I was driving with my brother the other day, and we were driving towards Main Street, and he was telling me we were talking about how much we spend in the cars these days. And we were driving, he told me, why you don't take this right? Without even asking him. So that right that I took, it saved me 2 minutes every day of my time, shortcut. So that was like a conversation, that just an example, instead of, it's always to ask for advice, and I asked him why it's so long, take me so long to get to my home. So that's basically, those help you to get the skills that you need in order for you to be an effective leader. And again, effective leader is within yourself as well. You're setting up your leadership skills. So now we're going to pass on to how you evaluate your goals. So in order for you to be successful and achieve your goals, first of all, your goals have to be measurable, right? If I want to own a house tomorrow, I cannot do it tomorrow because I don't have the money for it. But you have to set up the right goal. I cannot say I'm going to travel to the moon tomorrow because that's not a measurable goal. Or I cannot say that the goal has to be measurable. So it has to be something that you can imagine, something that is doable. Second is, once you set up your measurable goal, you have to put a deadline to it. We tend to lose our goals because we don't have a set of deadline that we respect. And the second thing is, a lot of people, they have goals, but it's a one-time goal, but that's wrong. The goal is not a one-time thing that you can do in 1 day or 2 days, right? You can do a set of goals that help you achieve that goal, the overall goal. Next, we got the lead measure and the lag measure. The lag measure is if I want to write a book, right? That's my lag measure. It's basically writing a book by the end of the year. Vision is for me to be a writer, for example, right? Lag measure is writing a book within a year. That's not achievable over time. It will be achievable over time. The lead measure is writing 5 words every day, right? So you have the vision, again, you have the goal, and you have the objectives that you follow, right? The tracking is very important. What I call it, a checkpoint or a tool gate, and you always have to sit down, provide some time, get some time, and try to check how you're doing towards the vision and how you're doing towards those goals you're achieving every day. One last thing I know if Habiba is keeping track of time here. SWOT analysis. Have you heard of SWOT analysis before? Of course, Carlos did. SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's very important to know your 4 elements here. I have one on my desk. A funny thing, every day it changes. Sometimes my strengths or my weaknesses becomes my strengths as I see it every day. So it can be done within the organization, in organizations, and it can be done for ourselves as well. Here are quickly a couple of questions that you can ask yourself while you're evaluating either your goal or you're evaluating yourself, right? We can pick a couple here. So one of the strengths, you will have to list your resources, right, that you possess. Opportunity may be the trainings that you need to achieve that goal. Creating or opening your business, you will need some kind of, right, training how to go to the city hall, apply for the business license and all of that. Threats will be your competitors, like people who do the same thing. Even if you're applying for jobs, that will be the same case. And weaknesses, what I'm bad in and how I can fix it. So that being said, I would like to pass it now to our panelists, and they will be sharing their experiences. Or before, actually, I want to give Carlos and Osa to give us some kind of insights on objectives and how they need to be measured. And then we'll pass on to our panelists to give us their, share with us their experiences. Okay? Thank you.
So, perfect. My name is Osa Schwab. I live here in Malden. I've lived here for 17 years. I mark that by the age of my son, who is 17. And I was kind of laughing at the description at me as expert in this topic of youth development. But when I started to think about it, I can share a few reasons why maybe I'm an expert. The first and most important is that I never quite grew up, so I still consider myself a youth. Though chronologically, obviously, I'm not. Over the last 3 years, I've done a lot of community work here in Malden, and one of my favorite types of collaborators are young people, and they could be as young as 2, 3, but I happen to have a number of friends who are in high school or some in college, and I, for some reason, really take them very, very seriously. And that may be in part because when I was or a little younger than you all, I was a teen, and I was very, very depressed. And I had a lot of dreams. I had a lot of interests. I saw what was happening in the world. At the time, it was terrible circumstances in Cambodia, and massive numbers of people were being killed. And there were some famines in Africa, and I could not reconcile what I saw around me as apathy and adults acting like everything is fine and your goals should still be go to school and make money and have a nice, comfortable life while all these other people are suffering. Now, unfortunately, at the time, I did not receive the help that could help me channel all the feelings I had and all the interests and the desires and the goals that I had into a constructive way. And so I took a bad path, which took me many years to recover from. So I call myself a late bloomer, and only recently have I learned what Murad spoke so importantly about is the why. The why am I living? Why am I here? What special thing can I offer this life? Because I have these experiences, because I have these talents, because I have this interest, or this passion, or this concern. It's only recently. But it doesn't matter, because I have been able, over the last few years, I do feel a calling. I feel a calling to uncover treasure in our community, to give voice to, people who may not have a voice, to bring people together, to create something together, to see what can happen when we experience each other's culture, or when we talk about things in a very honest way. What can happen? What can we do together? What can we create together? So that's the path that I'm on now, and I would say that I think one of the most important things is for those outside. So my message today is really to the adults in the room, because I think that right now we're in a crisis in our world. We have a crisis of suicide rate, we have a crisis of climate issues, We have all kinds of things that are happening. And we need young people to step forward. We need their ideas and their sensitivities and their response and their concerns, their fears, their anxieties. We need to take those seriously and then empower them to do what they imagine they want to do, to apply all these, strategies and steps to set goals. But before that, they have to feel the freedom that their interests and their goals are important and that we take them seriously. Now, there's one young person that I admire greatly. You may have heard of her, Greta Thunberg. Now, she is, this young Swedish 16-year-old girl who is making waves in the world, right? 16 years old. And she has, I want to read you a little bit from her book. She's now speaking to the House of Parliament in London. Okay, this is 2019, April 2019. My name is Greta Thunberg. I am 16 years old. I come from Sweden and I speak on behalf of future generations. I know many of you don't want to listen to us. You say we are just children, but we're only repeating the message of the United Climate Science. Now, many of you, if you don't know what she's doing, she is very concerned about the climate. She herself has Asperger's, which means that she can very focus intently on the situation in nature, extinctions of animals. She loves nature, not people, not so much. So for that reason, she's able to focus intently. But anyway, so then she goes on to say, many of you appear concerned that you are wasting that we as students who are taking time away from school because we want to present about the climate crisis. We're wasting valuable lesson time, but I assure you that we will go back to school the moment you start listening to science and give us a future. Is that really too much to ask? In the year 2030, I will be 26 years old. My little sister Beata will be 23, just like many of your own children or grandchildren. That is a great age, we have been told, when you have all of your life ahead of you, but I'm not sure that it will be that great for us. I was fortunate to be born in a time and place where everyone told us to dream big. I could become whatever I wanted to. I could live wherever I wanted to. People like me had everything we needed and more, things our grandparents could not even dream of. We had everything we could ever wish for, and yet now we may have nothing. Now we probably don't even have a future anymore, because that future was sold so that a small number of people could make unimaginable amounts of money. It was stolen from us every time you said that the sky was the limit and that you only live once. You lied to us. You gave us false hope. You told us that the future was something to look forward to. And the saddest thing is that most children are not even aware of the fate that awaits us. We will not understand it until it's too late, and we are the lucky ones. Those who will be affected the hardest are already suffering the consequences, but their voices are not heard. Now, I don't share this to depress you, but I share this because this is the passion and the idea and the voice of a young person. It's not comfortable to listen to. And sometimes when we adults hear the voice and the passion and the ideas of young people, it may not be comfortable because it challenges us. And I want to challenge myself and adults to have the courage to take seriously these young people, other young people, and to embrace what they want to do, even if it makes us, if it requires us to change. And I think ultimately that is the power, that we change together and grow together in response to each other's goals. So I share that. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for having me here. And Murad, thank you for inviting me. This is a great honor to be speaking in front of you. The topic of leadership is one that has always been on the forefront of my mind for a variety of reasons. It's the way that the world moves. It's the way that we get things done. It's the way that we can solve problems. And as was alluded prior, we have a lot of problems to solve. If you read, and so some of those problems are overlapping in the Venn diagram that my friend Murad put up there, both in the personal, the business, and a variety of other family as well, and a community, right? So we're all part of a fabric. And I want to touch a little bit upon that. I would actually use a little bit different phrase, similar to the why. I have a favorite author. He says that Albert Camus. He said that we get into the habit of living before we know the reason why. And so I would advise you to not just get into the habit of living before you know the reason why, to explore what that reason is, right? So one of the things that I always look at when the question of leadership comes up is, what is leadership? I mean, I've been in many positions. I've led hundreds of people, millions of dollars, large institutions, small institutions, and I've had good people, some not so good. And so you always get a mix of these things, and so the idea of what is leadership is always something that you have to perfect. Heifetz from Harvard, I think it was, I just met a gentleman that went over there. If you get a chance, talk to him. He has two aspects of leadership. He said that leadership is the technical, and as we see from, for example, the Malden River Works, some of the projects that are mentioned here, some of the situations that we all encounter. We all know how to solve them. It's not a matter that we don't know how to solve a particular problem or a particular issue. But it's the second aspect of leadership which is the challenging part, which is the adaptive nature, as Heifetz calls it. The adaptive nature of the problem is what keeps you from solving a 100-year war. The adaptive nature of the problem is what keeps you from understanding, even though the data is super compelling with regards to climate change and a variety of things. The adaptive nature of the problem is also what prevents people from seeing that everybody here in this room and on this panel is comprising the majority of the country's growing population. And that there are shifts in that, and there are huge implications in that. And that type of adaptive nature is what I like you to ponder a little bit. Because a lot of times, and I was reading the mission of the Association for Arab Women, and it's very key to our daily lives, and to even more so to the future of this country. And the reason I say that is because if we do not prepare leaders, then all of our quality of lives, all of our institutions, all of our communities will be adversely impacted. We have major challenges in front of us, from not just the physical world of the environment, but that's a very big problem that requires immediate and drastic action in some cases, but also from the financial and economic perspective that allows us to be able to support our families, to be able to be competitive in the world. It is not guaranteed that this country will continue to be the most powerful and largest economy in the world. As a matter of fact, some might challenge that today. You look at China, you look at the Scandinavian countries in terms of their quality of life compared to ours. You look at their education system. There's a book out called The Death of the Economist, and it speaks about how this generation is actually less educated than previous generations, and what that means in terms of the types of things that are currently constantly dividing us. We have lost an ability to understand how to think critically so that we can evaluate advice as simple as, should I turn here? Would it be a good idea to jump off that cliff? No. It sounds like when you say it that way, like very obvious, right? But there's a lot of examples of where people tell you, do this, which are almost parallel to that, right? And you need to be able to evaluate that from a critical perspective. And that to me has always been and this word doesn't exist, irregardless of age, right? Regardless of how old you are, that is not the factor, right? The factor that you need to really think about is, how do I prepare myself to be a critical thinker? How do I prepare myself to be able to evaluate the true from the false? And how do I continue, to the point that was made earlier, how do I continue to have a broad enough perspective that I do not close myself off to my own universe of things? Because that kind of rigidness is what has caused us to create this kind of division in our families, in our communities, and in our country. We need to, in those three, kind of like that middle triangle that Murad had up there, we need to be able to really navigate that triangle really well, so that we can provide that kind of connection in a very humane way, right? We want to be able to provide that. So there's a philosopher by the name of Kant, right? He said that the way that we examine life that we should live has to have three factors: something to do, someone to love, and something to believe in. And so, very general, but nonetheless very powerful. And that's the kind of, I guess part of it is because of my background in science. I look at things in terms of, Murad knows this because I made him sick about this. I look at things in terms of X, right? And what is the value of X that you are going to be able, what is X equal to? When we learned arithmetic, 1 plus 1 equals 2, that was the answer to a specific question. But when we said X plus 1 equals Y, that was the answer to the universe of answers, of possibilities. And we need to be able to understand that and realize that there are more than one way, there's more than one type of solution to the problem. And that in order to be an effective leader, we cannot just say, this is the only solution that could possibly be, because we will be obsolete, and most important time, we won't be able to solve if that problem changes a little bit, or if that situation changes a little bit. So that preparation both helps us to solve more problems, but it also helps us to be tenacious. Because I got to tell you something, leadership is perilous. Back to Heifetz. In his book, The Leadership on the Line, he says, leadership is perilous. That means that when you step out in front, that there is always a risk. And some of that is a risk that you're going to be wrong. I've seen people go up on stage embarrassed about, they're going to laugh at me. I'm like, right now, Carlos, I got the title of an expert. He's not an expert. Right? So leadership is about that. And that's a smaller risk, a personal risk in some senses, but there are larger risks. Because once people start following you, you become responsible for that. Once you generate those ideas, because leadership is not only, in my definition, is not only about people following you, but it's also about the vision that you create around things, so that you can be a better community, so that you can solve a better problem, so that you can enhance the quality of life of people around you. But it's all at the core of the why. It's very important to understand what that why is. Another factor that I would make a recommendation in terms of being an effective leader is definitely seek out mentorship. Expand your networks. Do not become insular with your ideas as well as with your networks. Because you are constantly learning from people. So I was in a meeting in the Chamber of Commerce one time with Colin Powell. Colin Powell, for those of you who may not know, he used to be the Joint Chiefs of Staff, right? Very important guy in the government, very smart guy. And he said that one of the things he used to do when he went into the parking lot of the Pentagon, which is this place, right? He used to talk to the folks that cleaned, the folks that were there and attended, to hear their perspective on it. Most of the other times he's listening to the world leaders and trying to solve one of the worst problems that the world faces. But he also had the insights to be able to talk to them to try and get a perspective on what is working what does the reality look like for them. Because we could be sitting around here and have a different impression of what that reality is, but that doesn't mean that I know your reality unless I ask you, or I try to find that out. In reading the mission of this organization, that was one of the things that struck me as a very important mission. the ability to, once you come over here, how do you go and help people to become the best person that they can be? How do you go and create an environment where it is easier for them to connect, prosper, and educate their families and support themselves and their loved ones and contribute positively to the areas and to the things that they love? And so that to me is on the personal level. But always be able to be tenacious. Incorporate failure into your leadership model. I can tell you tons of times where I've done things that have not been linear. I'll give you a quick example, and I know I'm taking up too much time now. So I'll give you a quick example. So I worked when I first started, so I'm an immigrant. I came to this country from the Dominican Republic, many, many moons ago. And I grew up in New York, and I went through the high school, right? After high school, there was issues, with economics. I didn't go directly into college, right? So, but nonetheless, I knew that was something I wanted to do. So what I did is I ended up working at an engineering company doing modifications to nuclear power plants. It's a long story. So anyway, that came about because of networks. That came about because of consciously wanting to get into that field and figuring out who I knew that I can connect with, right? And I got in basically at the ground floor, technical assistance clerk. So long story short, after a long time of doing this kind of work, I worked at night and that didn't work out. Couldn't get the degree, went to a college, that didn't work out because I was like going from 6 o'clock in the morning to midnight, basically coming home and no life whatsoever, sleeping on the floor sometimes because my brothers were like, paying, as any of you have brothers, you know this. And then I decided, you know what, I need to take a bigger leap here and a bigger risk, which is also part of leadership, right? Very critical part, intelligent risk. Take risk, but do not be reckless, is what I recommend to you. So I ended up getting a scholarship to a college here in New Hampshire. The problem was that I had been working and the second part of the semester already started, so I missed the first part, so I had to take the second part before the first part, and then after that take the first part. So the point of that story is, so what? Don't think that that you have to go step one, step two all the time. Figure it out. Think about it, but figure it out, keeping in mind what the goal and objective is. And challenge the system. I don't think anybody else had ever done that before in my college. It was a private school and it allowed me to do it. So I was like, let's go. All they want you to do is have the results of that. But once you just said, yeah, you can do it, make sure you can do it. So those are some quick insights in terms of leadership. I'll stop talking and leave it to the Pharaoh.
Wow, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Osa. This is great. Again, thank you for telling us your story. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about what does it mean to know the why, and what does it mean to have a set of goals and objectives. Now we're gonna go along with our youth, starting with Gabe. You too, Carlos. Starting with Gabe, so they're gonna introduce themselves and they're gonna tell us who they are and talk a little bit about their experience, okay? So, big welcome to Gabe, please.
How are you guys today?
Hello? You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Good. What's up, guys? My nickname is Gabby, but my real name is Gabriel Toribio. I'm from Malden, Massachusetts here. I grew up here in Malden, living my whole life, ever since I was a baby. Going all the way to Fairway School, now to Malden High, graduating 2018. A little bit of background story about myself. Graduated Malden High School 2018. I've only had one job my whole life, and it was actually with Murad, working at the tannery in Boston as a sales representative. Doing this, he was actually speaking about mentorship with Carlos. Murad, he was my mentor at the tannery. He showed me how to, do about $50,000 a week in sales volume. We were actually competitive into as well, having races who would make the most sales throughout the day. And I feel like that's what really awoke
a real lion in me. Everybody wants to be a lion, but when it's time to hunt, they retract. And what I mean by that is that, when it's time for you to set goals for yourself, that means it's time to work. You know what I'm saying? It's sleepless nights. It's forgetting to eat. It's forgetting to even call my mom throughout the day and saying I'm coming home late. It's because I'm working so hard towards where I want to go and what I want to do for my own city as well. The reason why I actually am a business owner as well at the age of 20 years old. I co-own La Tienda shop up in Lebanon Street. We sell high-end streetwear, clothing, bags, shoes, sneakers, anything that you can honestly think of. We sell at art pieces. And we just provide a platform for the community of Malden. We support a lot of local brands as well. So if you have a local brand, you can come distribute it within the store as well. Main reason I want to create a platform for people is just to build and create their own dreams. One of my largest goals is to just create wealth for my family and I. And somebody who really looks up to me is my little brother. So that's really why I work hard every single day of my life. I legit sleep about 4 to 5 hours a night just because of that. And I look up to a lot of big people. Like background about myself, when I turned 18 and I graduated high school, I had no idea really what I wanted to do. I had an idea, I already had the end result in mind of where I wanted to be. When I was a kid, I already drew out the layout of my store and how it was. And if you go into the store and look at the drawing that I'm about to hang up on Monday, it's going to look exactly the same. So what's the most important thing about your life is having a vision, really manifesting everything that you want in life, and it'll happen. You really have to speak it into existence, or if you don't, it won't happen. And anything truly, there'll be days where I'll be missing a product and I'll need a size 9 in a shoe, and then all of a sudden someone comes with a size 9. That's not out of coincidence. Just like how Carlos said, you have to have a higher conscience above yourself all the time, really knowing about what you want in life. And coming out of high school, I fell into I don't know if you guys know network marketing. I got really high into direct sales and network marketing. I traveled around the world, not really around the world, but around the States. And I went to Dominican Republic. I'm actually Dominican as well, so that's my island brother right there. I went to DR a lot of times and really spoke to my family and friends because we were going to train the company to go over there as well, but it didn't end up happening. So I really started to build a team, and this is where I started to understand about leadership. Leadership is huge. I started building a team upwards to 10 people to 15, and it grew all the way up to 450 plus people. And that's where I had to establish leaders in my own organization for them to show their people on how to build their own businesses, a home-based business. And I really took that serious. Met a lot of very wealthy people. Met the owner of the company, so I really understood there was a real company going around. And I slowed down a little bit of it. I realized that it was taking a lot of my own personal time to build, and I was building other people's dreams and not mine. So I really took it upon myself and to open the shop. Saved up strategically for a year. About startups, you guys know how much it is. If you guys own a business, it's not easy, especially when you don't go to school for it. I saved about $20,000. Got a little bit of help from my grandmother. She was actually the only person in my family that supported me, besides my mother emotionally. And a lot of people didn't really want me to do it, and they said I couldn't do it at all. Growing to high school too, there was a couple teachers that said that I wasn't going to do anything with my life either because of the way I acted sometimes. And unfortunately, that's a bad thing that we have in some people, that you prejudge. Never prejudge anybody, because you can never you can never compare yourself to someone's. If you're on chapter 10, you can't compare yourself to someone's chapter 20 at the end of the day. And I tend to realize that I really didn't care what anybody said to me. I already knew where I was going to go. I just didn't know it all, but I was willing to learn. And that's one thing you also need to know, is that always to be a student for everything, no matter what, and always listen to the people who have what you want, whether it doesn't have to be about money or like materialistic items. It could be somebody donating $10,000 to an organization like this, and you're wondering how they did it, and you want to learn from them. Saved up for a year, opened the shop up, went to a lot of hard battles too. I also been reselling sneakers and selling clothing. I have my own personal brand as well, and a lot of things that I had to go through that was missing a package. that had about $2,000 worth of items in there, reordering it, resaving, being scammed multiple times for sneakers. It got to the point where I was doing I thought I was doing so well for myself that I was selling sneakers to a store in New York, and I didn't know it was a front, and I missed out $15,000 of my own money. So that's something that emotionally hurts you very bad, trust me, when you don't got much. And I just had to really move forward and really can't think emotionally with things in life. You have to think logically. You have to think of how, like he said as well, is that you have to be a master problem solver in any type of business that you do. That's what being an entrepreneur means, is being a master problem solver. Finding any issue, finding whatever it is, you find a way to resolve that is a way to do it. Some major goals that I see for the city of Malden in general is being more modern. I see Malden becoming a faster developing city as well, being a little bit more popular than Boston in the future. Some people don't even know that, the history of Malden, like Nike originated the Converse here. There's little things like that Malden has such a big history on. And I really want to, develop a big entrepreneurial group for the youth as well in Malden High School, so that way they can, I can fund any project or an invention that they want to do or anything like that, to provide, kids, because we always need a huge role model. That's what I feel like a lot of us in a young age lack. Being in an island household, a Dominican household my whole life, I was always taught to just do the right thing, and by the right thing means to go to school, get good grades, to go live a regular life and make regular money, and then just have a normal job and normal life, go on a couple vacations and have some fun. But I figured that really wasn't the life for me. You know what I'm saying? My little brother always wants to do big things. He wants to be a doctor. He wants to open his own type of business, and my dad really wasn't the big supporter in my family, so I had to really do everything on my own, learn how to do everything by myself. Blessed to the fact that, my parents take care of me as well, but, I definitely owe them a lot more than what I, think they should be. This is something that, would definitely take a huge goal of myself, is to really, like I said, develop wealth, so that way I can show kids, become a millionaire before the age of 21, which is next year, God willing. I don't do it because I have a love for money. I do it for what I can do with the money and what I can provide to people and kids. Honestly, I've always been that kid, say if I see someone, a homeless person or something like that, I don't know what you're going to do with the money, I always give you something. Or if I not give you money, I would give you food. You know what I'm saying? Because I always have to look out for other people. That's the human nature. What we have to do is look out for each other. And a lot of people lack that, unfortunately. Like a lot of things that are going on around. Oh shit, that's my picture. You notice? You really have to support each other no matter what we do at anything, you know what I'm saying? As long as it's not violence or, drugs or any of those bad things that we always have to support each other and, support the community. And I'm actually even doing almost pretty much a free event March 28th, to support local brands at our sneaker event in the Revere Hotel in Boston, March 28th. And a lot of the tables are going to be free. Why? It's because I'm not money hungry. It's because I want to provide a platform for people to build. So that way, if anybody needs any type of help on anything, they could always come back. And, so yeah, thank you guys so much.
You're going to change that? Hi. Thank you. I'm Manal. I recently graduated from UMass Amherst with my degree in economics, and I graduated a semester early, so that was a goal that I had and decided to, pursue it. It kind of came up on me pretty shortly, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to graduate early. School is not my favorite thing. UMass is not my favorite place. It's just, there's a huge lack of diversity, not just like racially and ethnically, but in mindset, and I just found myself to be kind of stuck there. And when you're walking around a place and you feel like your existence is kind of a form of protest, because everybody else is the same. You kind of want to shorten that for yourself, and so that's what I decided to do. And here I am. But yeah, I wanted to talk about short-term goals because I love short-term goals. If you ask me what I'm going to do in 5 years, I really don't know, and I think that's totally fine because you really never know what's going to happen, and you can have all these goals and you could chase them, but you know, things come out of the blue, and that's what I've learned because I used to be obsessed with planning, and I used to plan every single detail, but you know, things happen and it doesn't work out. So I realized how important it is to set short-term goals and really be focused and motivated, and kind of detach from the idea of controlling everything and having control over every little detail, because it's just not realistic, and then you spend so much more time being upset when things don't go your way when you could use that energy towards, you know, figuring out what you're going to do next. So yeah, I think that it's important to know where you want to be within the next year, or like what you want to do next. But for like big future goals, that's just not something I'm interested in. So yeah, I got my degree in economics, and one of the first concepts that you learn in economics is opportunity cost, which is basically the idea that every time you do something, there is a cost, whether it's monetary or not. For example, if you go to the movies, you're going to spend like $15 on a movie ticket, but if you don't go to the movies, yeah, you didn't spend any money, but you gave up the opportunity, so you didn't get to see the movie. So once I learned about that, I started planning my TED Talk, and I started thinking about how much time I spend doing tasks that are kind of trivial, like scrolling through Instagram, going on Netflix, things like that you just kind of do mindlessly. And I tried to transform those habits, and I started getting into art and painting, started drawing. Recently I've been working on music and just doing all these things in my free time that I'm not really planning on turning into a career. Morad asked me to bring some of my paintings in today, and I said no, because it's not something that I do for other people or anything. It's just, you know, something I do because I have the opportunity to. So I think that that's very important when you're finding your why, because I was in school and I hated it, and I liked what I was learning, but I didn't like the place where I was, and so for me, finding art was my why. You know, I want to graduate and I want to get a job and I want to start working so that I, you know, have space to continue my art. So that to me is huge, is like figuring out what you want to do with your time. If you're just like mindlessly like waking up and living this monotonous life where, you know, you're waking up, going to school, you're going to burn out. For me, there were days like I would wake up in the morning, especially this past semester, I would wake up in the morning, go to my first job, and it was like an administrative job, and go there for a few hours, and then I would have class back to back to back. And then I had to rush home to my apartment and get my car and go to my next job. And then I was there all night. And then I go home and then I have homework. So it's like, when you're in that type of cycle, you need a sense of purpose, or you need something that, you know, brings you light and makes you feel like it's worth it, other than your end goal, because there will be times where you feel like the goal isn't even worth it anymore, and you rethink things. So that, for me, is what kept me focused, because focus is also very, very important, and I feel like our generation is slowly getting less focused, and I think that there are constantly all these distractions in our way, and I don't know, not to be like anti-technology, because I'm not, but I definitely think with the rise of social media, there's a lot of new distractions. And, you know, social media, like apps, they're designed to distract you, and they want all these, like, they want to light up on your phone, and they want to have like endless scrolling features and all these ways to keep you attached to them, and that's just like an example of a distraction. But for me, yeah, I just really think that focus, and then purpose and time management are the most important, and balance, which kind of like ties them all together. But yeah, I just had to find a way to balance everything that I had on my plate, and take things easy, remember to breathe, remember to just like take the time out to do what you need to do, take days off when you need them, because it is so easy to burn out, and once you burn out, you're burnt out, you know, and you can't move anymore. And I feel like it's possible, and it happens. I've seen it happen to my friends, and it happened to me at some point. So you really have to take the time to do things that fulfill you and make you happy outside of, you know, your everyday life and your work or your classes or whatever, because that's not always going to be the thing that brings you joy. Even if, like, you know, getting your degree is something that you really want to do and it'll make you happy, the process isn't always as pretty as the end result. So yeah, I would say definitely finding things that make you happy and picking up hobbies. And even if, like, when I started painting, I had a lot of friends tell me, like, they wish that they could do that and they want to paint too, and they don't know how, and they're bad at drawing and all this stuff. And it was just so funny to me, because I felt the same way, and I just kept practicing because I had all this time, and anybody can do it. So it doesn't have to be drawing, but like finding one thing that is outside of, you know, whatever you're chasing is really, really important. And it's, you know, important for your inner peace and just like developing that sense of self, I think. Yeah, that's all I really have to say.
Hi guys. Hi everybody. How's everyone feeling today? Good. That's good. My name is Fayruz. Everybody calls me Faye. Thank you for having me here today. Swad, Murad, thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody. I haven't been behind a microphone in so long, so like my heart's racing, but I want to start I guess with a little bit about myself and how I got to where I am today. My eyes opened at a very young age. I'm just going to hold this because... So, I learned about a lot about the world when I was young. Some of those things stay with you. I'm sorry. Some of those things stay with you. And when you don't talk about them, they build a fire. But it's a good thing. And that fire burns. And it pushes you. It pushes you to be different. To look at the world differently than how you were told to look at it. To look at the world differently than how you were taught to look at it, maybe at school or from somebody in your life. So going through high school, my school was K through 12. I grew up in Malden. I went to the charter school. Very, very interesting experience. Being around the same people every single day for 13 years. It really takes a lot out of you to go in there day after day for 200 days a year. The community, it was so close, but you felt so alone because of how I don't like using the word fake, but it just felt so fake. And because there wasn't much diversity, I just felt like there was nobody I could talk to about what I was going through. And when you go through life quietly in your head, it does make you stronger, but you seek something out of every single place and every single person you meet on the street. So as I grew older and I graduated, well, before I graduated, I started to apply to colleges, like most high school students. And I remember you make a list, right, of your target school, your match school, and then your safety. And I had a list going, and I had Boston University on my target, which means like that is like what I'm trying to achieve. That is like what fits my resume, my grades the best. So I went into my college counselor's office, and she looked at the list, and she happened to also be not a counselor, but she worked at Boston University as in an administrative position. So she knew what it took to get there and to make it through. And she looked at my list, and she asked me, why do I have this on my list? And she advised me to take it down and put something more practical for myself. So when it came through to distribute the Common App to all the schools, I took Boston University off, and I didn't even apply to anything. I sent out my applications. A lot of my applications were early action, meaning that, so there's early decision, early action, and regular. Early decision means you aren't really applying to more than 3 schools. You're relying basically on the 2 or maybe sometimes just 1 that you apply to. And most of those applicants have really high GPAs, and they get accepted, most likely, like 98% to that school, and they can usually afford to go to that school. So I was early action, meaning I wasn't relying on just 1, but I had multiple options, but I felt passionately about being at this school, and I was ready, resume-wise, grade-wise, to submit my transcript without having the last quarter finished in high school. So I applied early action to all my schools, and I remember getting all the acceptances in the mail coming through, and some wait lists, and I spoke to my mom, and she very aggressively told me to apply to BU, and I remember fighting back, and I was like, no, why do I have to apply there, you know, like a little bratty teenager. And she was just like, why not, it's close, like you never know, blah blah blah. So I went back, and I ended up applying. I was praying that I would get in, but at that time I didn't think that I would, because of what was said between me and my college counselor in her office. And so I wait, and I get the letter in the mail, and I had been accepted, and I knew like that was where I was supposed to go. In my heart, I knew that that was where it was meant to be. So I didn't even wait for any other application to come through. I sent in my acceptance letter, and that was the start of another journey. College. College was different. They require you to live on campus. Boston University does this. I think other schools do it as well. When you have a certain amount of aid, and when it's your first year. So off to college I went to live at the dorm, and I had never gone to a school that big. I graduated with 95 other kids. So being there, I felt like I was this little fish in this giant sea with so many opportunities and freedom at once. Like, finally don't have to answer to my mom or where I am or what I'm doing. And it was good, but I started to lose focus, and I was very, very, not distracted, but I just felt so much pressure, not being at home, but always having home in the back of my mind, thinking about my brother, thinking about my mom. And then at the same time, I was working full-time, and similar to Manal and many other people in this room, I imagine, I would wake up at 5 o'clock and go to my job and come back at 1 and then go to school and then go back to my other job in between classes. And it was a lot for somebody who's, you know, you're only like 17, 18 years old at the time. And so to be like going through those emotions consistently day after day, you start to lose focus on like what you want for yourself, because you're just thinking like, okay, I have to do this, so you do it, but you're not thinking about why. So in my sophomore year, I started to feel really, really depressed, and I wanted to take a leave of absence for so long, but I felt like I wouldn't have the support if I spoke about it, so I held off, and I wish I didn't, because at my job, I started to have panic attacks. Like, I would lay in bed at like 3:30 in the morning, waiting for my 5:15 shift, and I would literally start to like hyperventilate because I didn't want to go in. I didn't want to deal with the people. I didn't want to have to pretend that, that they were cool and that I was cool with them. Because, work politics, that's another thing. And when you get involved in stuff like that when you're young, it's difficult to maintain peace and to maintain balance in your mind when those things affect you. And when we're young, we don't know how to not let things affect us. Things people say, how people treat you. So I let a toxic work environment get to me, and at the same time, I didn't want to be in school. So finally, I had the balls, and I told my mom I wanted to take a leave, and I didn't really tell her in a timely manner. I waited until finals came through, and I didn't take the finals. I left before the week of finals, and that whole semester went to waste. Wasted money, and I wasted time. But like Manal was talking about, there's always opportunity cost. What I didn't lose was my mind, because I was so close to losing it until I took the time to say, do what you want. It doesn't matter if somebody thinks that you're going to be a failure, or if that you're not going to finish on time, or, things happen and you have to follow your heart. You have to do what is going to make you feel safe. So I took that time off, and during that time I worked, but I didn't really do much. But I started to get into what I was passionate about, which was writing and performing, which I found through writing. I wasn't like a natural born performer that was amazing on stage the first time. I still get very, very nervous. But so I started writing and I started performing, and through that I met a lot of mentors at school and through organizations that I would work with, doing events for them. Finally, I went back to school in 2017, so I took my leave in 2016, and I went back in the last quarter of 2017, and I am in school now. I'm finishing up my degree, and I'm set to graduate in winter, so next winter, so that's exciting, because I didn't see myself there. But, we could talk about school all day and stuff like that, but I really want to focus this last portion of what I'm going to say on higher consciousness, the topic of higher consciousness and of positive thinking, and really committing yourself to what you want to do for your life. Like, we're always going to be thinking about what our parents think, what our friends think, but at the end of the day, you're going to be living with yourself, and you have to do what feels right, even if everybody is telling you no, or everybody is scared you're not going to make it. So I worked a lot of odd jobs. Like, I always would say yes to everything that came my way, and my mom didn't like me working so many different things, and always going from one thing to another, but that is what excites me, and that is how I learn. That's the fastest way that I learn, and I enjoy working with and meeting new people. So at a young age, that is what I started doing. I started working all types of jobs, sales, bartending. I started managing artists. Some of these jobs were unpaid. I worked for a law firm for a little bit. I worked as a server. You learn a lot through these fields, but one thing that always stuck with me was how you treat people. And that never changes. Like, no matter where you work, you can always differentiate between treatment and like how you treat people and how people treat you and how they treat each other. So I took a break from everything because I just wanted to clear my head and really focus on getting back to school and focusing just on, you know, making sure I was set to go back and everything like that. So for a while I went with just a part-time that I enjoyed, but it wasn't really doing anything for me, and it was seasonal, so not a lot of time was, you know, I didn't develop a lot of myself doing that. But I had this like thought, you know, for a number of years. I knew a lot of people who worked at a bank in Everett, and since I was young, they would always tell me to apply, and like I never did. I just would be like, yeah, I will, and I never filled out the application. But you know, recently, in this past year, I wanted more for myself. I wanted to learn in an environment where you see people every day dealing with things that are unimaginable, and being in a place like that really helps you check yourself and like be grateful for what you have. So I decided in the summertime to apply, and because I procrastinate and because I don't always go through with what I say I will, I never called the woman back after my interview and told her about my availability when it came to school, like when I was free in between classes. I thought I just got in my head, and I was like, she's not going to want me. She's going to think that I am not available, like I'm going back and forth from school. So I put it off for like 2 weeks, and I just thought I lost the opportunity. But I had a weird dream, and I know I'm going to sound crazy, but like I really do believe in what you think will manifest. And even in the back of my head, like even if I thought that I wasn't qualified or that I couldn't do it or that I wasn't worthy of a callback anymore, I still like believed, you know, in the possibility of me being there. So I had this dream, and I was like literally trying to chase the bank manager that interviewed me, and as I'm dreaming, like I wake up and there's a phone call on my phone, and it's this Everett number, and I'm like, I don't know anybody in Everett, but I picked it up, and it was her, and she was like, hey, like, do you still want the job? And I was just like, it's been like literally like 2.5 weeks, and you're still offering me the job. She was like, it's yours if you want it. And at that moment, like, you know, all that doubt in me was restored, and I knew that that was where I was supposed to be, even if I didn't know that I was going to be there. But I guess like what I'm just trying to say with all of this is follow your heart, and it doesn't matter if somebody doesn't support you, or if somebody doesn't see why you're trying to do that, or if they don't understand why you're taking a break for yourself. You have to do what makes you feel safe and what makes you feel strong, and that's my why for doing what I do today and for taking the time I needed off of school. And yeah, thank you.
Oh my God, what an impressive story. Come on guys, another round of applause for our panelists here. Great story, I appreciate the thoughts there. I like the way you're coming back, even though after a drop-in and you're coming back, and failure always teaches us a lot. Fairuz Manal, I appreciate the fact that you've stated the short-term goals, always keeps you on track, keeps you focused. And Gabe, with your experience going through and gathering the team that will help you create your business, that's a really remarkable. I want to quickly say, recognize our City of Malden, Mr. Gary Christensen, Mr. Mary Gary Christensen, thank you. And school committee member Adam Weldy. Adam is with us today. So now we're gonna move it into questions and answers discussion. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, ask Carlos, Osa, Manal, Feiruz, or Gabe, our panelists, please. You can open it up for questions, and then after we're gonna have a quick exercise for you. Osa, please.
So I think you three are the experts here. My question for you is, it appears that despite not as much support as would have been beneficial to all three of you, you have managed to set goals and achieve goals. My question is, if you could rewind, what kind of support would have enabled either faster growth or a different trajectory? Either that question, or what kind of support would help you thrive now going forward? Because I'm hearing from you that there was a lack of support. So though I commend your tenacity and perseverance and courage, it makes me sad that there wasn't more there for you along the way. And I'd like to make sure you have more support along the way going forward. So what would that look like?
I'll begin and they'll finish. Support for me looks like listening and not speaking. Not to say like you can't give somebody advice, but like if somebody comes to you with a feeling or with an emotion or with a goal, even if you have no idea what they're talking about, even if they're speaking another language, even if they're not qualified, you have to look at them as if you were them asking for whatever or sharing whatever you were feeling in your heart. Nobody wants to be looked at like an alien or, you know, made to feel like their ideas are alien. So I think support is listening more than talking, and I know that's something we all struggle with. I struggle with that myself. You know, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to say.
For me, I didn't mention it, but I'm part of this program on campus called Emerging Scholars, which basically just integrates minorities and first-generation students into the Honors College. They sent me to the Dominican Republic for free for like a study abroad trip to incentivize minorities to go on study abroad. That is a very small program though. There's only about 20 people in my cohort, and you have to apply to get in. So not necessarily for me, but in general, I would like to see more programs like that and more programs that are like focused on helping minorities, especially when it comes to PWIs. I think that that's something that we're really lacking, and I think that a lot of universities try to act like they're diverse and they try to act like they care about equity, but it's just like on my campus 2 semesters ago there were like hundreds of hate crimes, like swastikas drawn places like that, Edward written on mirrors, and the support was so little. So I would love to see more of that, more programs, more integration, more like events and things like that, and just more bringing people together. I think that's something that we're really lacking. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to have like a connection, but yeah.
That's a great question. Personally for me, I would definitely like to see more hands-on work. Like for myself, I'm a very hands-on person, and I can't just listen to things. I need you to show me how to do things, exactly pinpoint to pinpoint on how to do it. As for support, honestly, I'm one of those kids, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do everything in my power to prove you wrong. And I will make sure you know, and I'll even send you pictures along the way, honestly. But support is honestly just coming together. spreading love, showing that we can unite as one and to do things together. And by that is creating, I would say it starts all the way in our elementary school. That's where it starts, all the way in our elementary school. Allowing kids to, even if they have a circle in their head, don't create into a square, and don't make them really think outside of the box, is what I'm trying to say. And allow them to think they can be whatever they want to be. Because a lot of times, when I was younger, a lot of people told me that I couldn't really do things because of where I was from or who I am or what I like. When I was in second grade, I could not pay attention at all. I was the kid bouncing around the whole room, grabbing the glue stick, playing with it, going back and forth. And what did they label me as? They said I had, ADHD, or, they wanted me to take pills for these things. And my dad said, hell no, there's no way that my son is taking pills for anything. And that was something huge for me personally, that if I ended up taking those, pills, I feel like it wouldn't have brought me to where I am now. You know what I'm saying? It's letting kids believe what they want to do and what they want to do. Simple as that. If a kid wants to be an astronaut, you show him how to get to that route. You don't simply say, oh, let's think more realistic. No. You show him how to get to where he wants to get to. And it always starts at home as well, too. Parents, I would definitely say support your kids on everything. No matter what it is, even if you have a son and he wants to be a cheerleader for all, for some reason, whatever he wants to do, you support him in that, for real, because you never know how much it could pay you back in the future. And I'm telling you that, how much it could pay you back, definitely.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you again for being here, and I do want to recognize our police chief, Kevin Bowles, who's in attendance. I want to center in on Malden High School. Adam Weldy from the school committee and I are proud to implement some of the great work that's occurred by our state delegation, led by State Senator Jason Lewis around the Equity Wall. So it's going to be a big chunk of new funding to put into Malden High School and the rest of our schools. I want to ask you, looking back, if you had this amount of money to put into Malden High School, what would you put it into? Would it be reducing class size? Would it be having more electives? Would it be having more mental health support, wraparound services? What did you see looking back that you wish we had more of?
It's definitely caring more about the students and who they are.
So more support staff?
More support staff, 100%.
Having more support staff for everybody and really believing in what kids want to do. Setting up courses and different electives, how you said, different routes like economic courses and how to cook, real things, how to do your taxes. Because when I was working at Taylor and Murad, she handed me a W-2, my boss, and I had no idea what it was. So it was a big number, and then he just really showed me how to do everything. And if somebody wants to go into sales, you do a sales course,
Oh, I'm sorry. Really showing people how real life scenarios and real life things. One thing that actually helped me like in real life was auto body shop. Before that I didn't know how to change a tire, and I was on the side of the road on I-95, and it was pouring rain, and thank God I went to that class, or I wouldn't know how to change a tire or a wheel. And it's things that show real life scenarios and real life things. Even how to book an airplane. You know what I'm saying? Like how to book a flight. Like little things like that matter in life. Because some people at home unfortunately don't have the benefit of going home to parents, and for other people to show them how to do these actual real life things in life. And this is something that's really key. And if somebody, like for example, one of my teachers, I won't even name her, I won't put her on blast, but she simply said to me that I wouldn't do anything with my life because of my attitude and how I treat people. In reality, I always helped everybody in my book with everything that they needed. And someone who really cares and really understands the students, my English teacher actually pushed me because she knew that I really didn't want to go to college as much as everybody else. She said, honestly, just do what you love and just going, because she knew me. You know what I'm saying? Build that relationship. The relationship is key with your students, and if there's more like entrepreneurial courses or like, you know, poem, way to like create a poem, you know, how to organize your life properly, things like that matter in life, and these are real life things that we need.
Yeah, I definitely think more support would be beneficial. I enjoyed my time at Malden High. I had some great teachers, and like I was a student who would like stay after with her English teacher and like have a place or like a person to talk to and like help me with college applications and stuff. But I know that not a lot of students have that, or that not a lot of teachers can, you know, provide that extra support for every single student because it's a big school. But I think that a lot of high schoolers are dealing with things very silently, and especially Malden High has like a very diverse population, so I know that a lot of first-gen students, you know, have to balance a lot at home, and so I think just having that extra support at school, so it's like one place where they don't have to worry and they can feel accepted, because at the end of the day I feel like that's what kids want, is to feel accepted and to feel like they have somebody to talk to and they have a place where they fit in, you know, because they're in this like big place and they're trying to figure out who they are. So yeah, I would definitely put as much as possible into support, yeah, mental health, all that.
I think something today, like very important for today's generation, for today's kids, is financial planning and how to manage your finances. There's so much garbage out there in the world today that is so accessible by young kids just because of the internet. You know, one click and they have access to knowledge, to products, to everything. And you know, leaving aside the conversation about what is appropriate or not appropriate for kids, I think just having a class or somewhere that somebody can oversee and teach kids how to handle their money and the importance of saving can, in the future, you know, provide a lot of value to somebody who is a young entrepreneur and wants to invest and start, you know, doing real estate or start buying their apartment at the age of 18, or small things like that matter. And I think if you wait until you're 18 to learn about that, it becomes that much harder when you're 30 and you're just finally getting off of, you know, your butt or whatever, and like just finally starting to do that work. I think if you just get a little intro when you're young, it would help a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will take one more question or comments, if you have. Please, you want to come up? It's a little bit short.
First, I applaud you for all what you have just said. You know, we're immigrants, and I'm a parent, and I can tell you how much pressure we put on our kids and the expectations to go to the best college. So, and you are in a situation where you grew up in a country where do whatever you want, while your parents are telling you you have to do certain things. You have to be good at math. So it's very challenging. So I think as a parent, I'm trying to teach myself to let go with this high expectations of high colleges. And if you have a talent like you do, I think as parents we have to support our kids. So being successful is not just about having a degree in college. And I think that's something we have to help, if there is money going to the school, is to help parents know that success is not just about having a 4-year degree. You can always go back to college. But growing up in a country where you didn't have that choice, we translate that into our kids. So that's also something that the schools have to understand, where the parents come from, so that they balance. So it's not just having support for the students, but having also some support for the parents, that you don't have to push your kids to just have the best score in math. You can be successful by doing what you're passionate about. And I think what you're going through is really a reinvention, which is really good at this age. Some of us, when we came here, we didn't get that until age 40. I reinvented myself after age 40. So what you're going through is really, really good at this age. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you very much. We can give Osa and Carlos final remarks, and then we will close it. For today, we have an exercise. We have a board, and we want you, before you leave, just write up what you learned today. It's on sticky note. You can choose whatever color you want, and you can just stick it into that board. And Carlos, Osa, closing remarks?
Sure. So one of the things that I heard in
the conversation of my fellow panelists here is something that I didn't touch upon, but I think that is very important that we all think about. And that is summed up in the word worth. A lot of times we think that our job is what is our worth. And I want to tell you that is not the case. That we should not define ourselves. Interesting, I was in France one time, and they don't ever ask you what you do when you're in social circles, right? They either judge you, are you interesting or not interesting, which is an interesting way to do it. Here, unfortunately, in the U.S., we tend to equate what you do with your worth, and that I want to tell you, shake that paradigm off. You are not what you are. Your career is not your worth. You have far greater worth than that. You are much more complex. You're going to have different jobs and careers throughout your life, and I want you to not think about that in a way that limits you to think, right now I don't have a job, a career, or whatever at this moment. I don't know what I want, so therefore I have no worth or value. That is not the case. You make the job, career, the worth. It doesn't make you.
What came to mind is a philosophy that I have about leadership, which is that a leader stretches out the canvas of possibility for other people. And if you're the kind of person that has a vision for what can be, it is a responsibility to create the atmosphere for others to step into that vision in a way that makes sense for them, and that together then you can create a beautiful picture. And not one person is more important. The leader is not more important than the people who are maybe creating some color on that canvas. And the other thing I want to say is my personal way of setting goals is a kind of an image, which is I feel that I'm on a boat in the middle of the ocean, and I throw out the anchor with the help of a bunch of people as far to the horizon as I possibly can, and then I pull myself toward that anchor. That's an image that I like to put out as a goal. But finally, I want to say that just listening to you, I feel that we as a community need to do something about ensuring that they get the support, the other students get the support, the immigrants get the support, the families get the support. It is not acceptable that they're not in a city where we claim and boast about our diversity. So this is an unfinished project that we need to continue working at. Thank you, three, for such inspiration.
Carlos. From my side, I would say that there are 5 things we all need to remember. Always know the why you're doing things. Second, always set up your goals. Goals should be divided into short term as well. Help you achieving them easily. Number 3 is reach out for help. Community. Our community has a lot of resources that we can utilize. Number 4 is basically evaluate. Always said, as I said, the SWOT analysis is a really good way to help. sit down with yourself and ask yourself questions. How am I doing with this goal? Am I achieving it? Am I on time? And number five is share. Share all your knowledge with others so you can help them thrive. You can help them shape up their mission and goals as well. So with that said, I want to say thank you all for coming. Thanks to the Malden Public Library for offering us the place. Thanks to the American Association for Arab Women, who always working hard to create a wonderful events. Suad, Habiba, and Absama, thank you so much for making this happen. Thanks to the panelists, Carlos and Oza, thank you very much for coming, and our youth, Feiruz, Manal, and Gabe, thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for coming. So don't forget, we have some food for you. Not food, but some cupcakes. So make sure you enjoy the sweets here. We got some coffee as well. And please we have one thing, I'm sorry. So very important. So before we close, I want to call Suad, Osa, and we can all stand. We have and Carlos, we have a couple of certificates to provide to our panelists. So the certificate says certification or certificate of encouragement for being a role model, setting up goals, and achieving them using the leadership development tools. So congratulations from the American Association for Arab Women. And I will ask Suad to give one to Feiruz. Feiruz, if you want to come up, and we can have someone take a picture as well. Can take a picture. There we go. So I'm gonna call Manel, if you want to come up. We give you, and I'm gonna call Osa to give it to Manel. There we go, Osa. Thank you very much. And Gabe, I left this in purpose because our DR. All right, here we go, Carlos. Okay, thank you very much, and I'm gonna leave you. You guys can come up, and if you have any questions, please make sure you ask and enjoy the coffee.